we had some old metal we had lying around. We're going to recycle it, and this is what we're going to use to make our brackets. So now we're going to pass the steel brush on them, clean them up as much as possible, and then we're going to paint them. And we'll put them back on the machine. Hopefully it'll look nice and clean, and we'll work from there. So I also noticed while we were working on this, and I said, there's nowhere to grease this cylinder, its pins. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure it up, put a hole here in the middle, and we're going to put some grease zerks. Put one here, and we're going to put one down on this end. So we'll be able to grease these pins. I think it's the only logical thing to do with it. So that's what we'll do. We're going to have an old piece of metal here. We're going to take and make a test hole in it, make sure our tap is the right one, and the threads are right and everything fits in perfectly for the grease zerks. Just gotta take your time, work it in, not to break your bit. Your tap, I should say. I use a little bit of cutting oil, it helps.
You have to work it back and forth?
Yeah, just to clean your threads.
Right through.
Right through?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now for the test.
Does the greaser fit?
We'll find out. It looks like she does. So we're dialed in, and we'll put the grease zerks in the cylinder. So when you're tapping something there, you don't want to go and force your tap through in one shot, because there's a very good chance that you'll break the tap. You want to work it back and forth. Give it time to clean its threads out. You just go in gently with it. You just take your time and you'll get it. See, I don't think I'll put my tap all the way through with the big end. I've passed it here, I guess you can see. That should be in far enough, because if you look, it's not a very long shaft for threads. So that should be sufficient. We'll try it and see. So we decided to change out the bolts. We had a bolt here, which was 1 1/4 inches, and it wasn't quite long enough to really tighten in properly. So we went down to the store and we got some new bolts, at 1.5 inches. So they're got a box of those, so we're going to put them in, and we're hoping that that should be nice and solid. So we'll be putting 4 in per plate that we're putting in there. So we're going to install this valve. Put on my new plates I made. And we're going to bolt her all down and start figuring out the hoses. We have our cylinder on the other side to put on. I did some more work to that cylinder. I'll show you guys in a bit. And what we had to do to modify it a little more so that it would be more productive, I guess, or longer lasting life of the cylinder and the bolts, etc. We put in some grease zerks in it, and I'll show you that after. So we'll do this.
Put a washer here.
Bit of a tight fit, but Audrey will get it.
Sometimes small hands are better.
Just put it there, hold it, and I'll try and screw it in.
Okay. There we go. Okay, I'll hold it with the wrench.
Yeah, you're tighten it in the line.
Okay. There's a gap there. Try to put that through.
Let it up for a little bit. Oh yeah, let it put on your washers. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, put the bolt on the other side. Washer.
So Audrey just installed some washers here to make a spacer, so that when we tighten it down, it doesn't allow for there to be too much pressure on the valve. We don't want to break the valve in any way or damage any of your products. So you want to make sure you're well spaced, and you just tighten it down a little bit. You don't start torquing down on that wild. Okay. So we just finished installing the valve. We put in our plates that we made. We have our 3 bolts. You know, we made a nice shim package there. Using washers. I guess you just fill in the washers that's needed. And now we're going to prepare to install the cylinder. We did some little modifications to it, and that'll hopefully give it a longer life. So we were able to install our valves. We put our brackets on, and we installed the valves at this height here for the reason, I know it's a bit on a bend here, but we did this for a reason, so that you have a good visibility of the blade and the wood coming through, as well as your handle to hold down the material. You have a very good visibility at this angle. If Audrey comes in here, she'll be able to show you from my angle. You have a good visibility of the saw blade and of the holders for the wood. So I thought that was important, so that you can measure and guide how fast you push down on the valve to lower the blade, at what speed you want it to go down at, the descent. So we thought that was a good idea, and at the same time, Audrey's a little bit shorter than I am. I'm in the 6 foot area, and Audrey's in the 5 foot. What's your height there?
Almost 5.5.
Almost 5.5. So we wanted to make sure that she could see over top of the valves. And at this height, we measured her out and we put her beside the valves. She has a clear view of both the blade and the holders, and she'll be able to see the wood coming in clearly. So we assume that this is going to be the optimal position for the valves. So now we're going to run our pipes over to the cylinder and down to the pump, etc., and out to the carpet. So we're going to take care of that now. So here we go, we put the little grease zerk in, we installed it for the top. We'll be able to grease that shaft and the pin. And we did the same down here, but we put a different one in here. We put one in on a 45, so that if you back up, you can see the machine blade is down. So no matter where you stop the blade, whether it be in an up position or a down position, you should always be able to grease your pin. So that's something to think about when you're putting this together. So as you can see, I marked all of my fittings going with the valve, so that if I need to put it back or for some reason or other, I'm able to know exactly where they go. And I marked it on both ends, so I'm always able to follow my valves and my fittings. So we're at this valve here below, in which they want us to replace. And this is the in-feed of the hydraulic pressure line. If you look over here, this is your pump. The pipe comes from the pump and comes into the valve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this particular line, replace it, and I'm going to send it up to my valve right here, which will be the pressure side. I'm going to do that next. This will be your pressure side of the valve. That's the in-feed of the oil to your hydraulic system. So now I'm going to come back over here. Audrey wants to come over here again. This is what we're going to call the return. That's the one leaving the valve after the pressure line. And it follows back to the carpet in the back.
This line here. Feeding the carpet.
Sorry about that, we have an airplane flying over us. So now we know that this is the return line. We're going to link it as the return. So we're going to put it on this side of the valves, and we're going to hook them two pipes up first. And then we know that these two, because I want to have this valve operate the blade. So that's these two valves, these here two outlets and inlets. And these two, outlet and inlet, will operate the carpet. So we're going to re-establish all that. So as we continue to do this, we'll try our best to show you how each pipe is hooked onto the valve and where it goes, so that if ever you have to repair your machine or work on it for some reason or other, you'll have a good idea what valve and what pipe does what. See? So now I'm undoing the pressure line, which is going to go up and feed the valve. So this pipe here, what I did was I took it from my carpet feeds, my go and my pressure and return, we'll say, one of these two pipes here, and I took it from my pressure line and I took it up to my valve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten it down in this position down here, because you have to remember the plunger, this is the plunger, has to be able to pass without hitting it. So we're going to tie it down in a position like this, and then we're going to fasten these two pipes here together. And that'll be taking care of the feed and the outlet. So the pressure line and the return line. And then what we're going to do is set up to send 2 pipes to the hydraulic cylinder and then 2 pipes to the carpet. So that's our next plan. So what I'm doing here to have access to this valve, when we first got this valve, it had 2 plugs in it, and this side here was operational. So what I want to do is make this valve operational as well, so I'm taking out the plugs, and I'm simply inserting new fittings, which I took from this valve. So I'm taking the pieces from this valve, and I'm simply interchanging them with the other valve, which is this piece right here. And I'll do the same for this one. I'll take it out. I'll go over here, loosen it off. Simply take this fitting, set it in there. Now I'm going to have 2 valves that operate. These fittings here are 1 inch and 1/16. So I got another one for here, and we'll just continue hooking up our pipes.
The other one's right there.
Through here.
Because we had to take it out to put this, turn this one in.
There we go. Tighten that in. And then we have 2 operational valves. So here, just take off this here plastic. There you go. See there, you can see now the grease coming out the sides. Now we know that that pin's well greased. So we'll do the same on the other one. And it should help with the longevity of the pins.
Here it's coming.
There it is.
That's it.
There we go. So what I did here was, normally they're calling for the metering valve hydraulic flow to be directly onto the valve itself. But I didn't like that idea, because when you walk by here, you'll have it sticking out past and you'll be running into it. So what I did was I took the pipe that was originally from the feed to the valve, and I just simply placed it between the metering valve and the valve itself to give me a little extension. And now I'm going to build a bracket, bolt it on here, and I'll fasten this to the bracket. And this pipe flows over to the hydraulic valve. So we're getting advanced, we're pretty well done. Won't be long, we'll test it and see if our plan works or not. So we'll try it and we'll let you know. we're doing here is we're just putting it on temporarily. We're going to make sure everything lines up before we start cutting and drilling more holes. And then we'll just continue building this little bracket. So as you can see, this is a pretty thick piece of metal. I think it's going to be a lot solid for a little valve like that you're not going to be moving around too much. So I think that'll work out good. So what's good about all this here, what we're doing is that we didn't purchase anything else except for a few bolts. All the hoses we had that come with the machine originally or that were sent to us with that kit. Because I reused pipes that came from the original carpet valve. As you can see here, this is the pressure line. And I didn't have to buy any fittings or anything like that because I took the fittings that were already on the old valve that was there to fill in for here. So that worked out pretty good. And I'll take a good picture of this so that everybody can see how I did it. This is how we did it. The company does it a different way. But I thought it would be easier to do it this way. So this is hoping that it works out.
You want to spread the silicone first? You want me to push?
Mm-hmm. So now when it's installed, we won't scrape ourselves on this at any time. That'll protect us.
Three by 4-inch rubber. Changed. So what we did here was we cut out some rubber and we fit it behind to avoid any vibration between the valve and the bracket we installed. And then we did the same by putting some rubber between the collar and the valve. That'll avoid all the vibrations and any possibility of damaging the valve, because that's the most important thing. You don't want to damage this valve because that's the flow control. And I think by doing it this way, we did a pretty good job. And also we put a nice rubber on top here, so you can't skin yourself, you can't hurt yourself. All we did was took an old gas line, sliced her down the middle, put some silicone on it, slid her down on top of it, and that made it. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll try it out tomorrow and see what it does.
If you want to follow our channel, hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell to be notified when new videos are uploaded. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.